Electrocast.
There's a change happening in the way we live, the way we work, the way we spend our money and make our decisions. We are evolving to be more conscious in our actions in a way that serves the world and makes it a better place. Welcome to the Ethical Evolution. The Ethical Evolution podcast is brought to you by Ethical Change Agency. I'm Bindi, I'm the founder, and my mission is to help ethical entrepreneurs and holistic healers to find their voice through spiritual coaching and podcasting. I'm honoured to bring you the stories of those who create change through healing, kindness, innovation, purpose, and spirit. Understanding that to create collective change, we need to be the change. It all begins with us. Monique Sayers is the visionary for a new paradigm of education, which is a culmination of her life's work as a passionate educator, mother, author, and awakened meditation healer. She offers this vision to all of humanity to awaken and bring forth a new paradigm that will serve all students for their highest good. She's an international best-selling author of a new paradigm of education. And when I got to chat with Monique, it was clear our missions were aligned and that just as we evolve as humans, so must our education in a holistic way. Welcome, Monique, to the Ethical Evolution.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Now, I have to say you are the first guest to come to us all the way from Uruguay, but you're originally from Australia, which is amazing. But welcome to the show. Now, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Monique Sayers, and I guess I'm a change maker would be one word to describe myself. I'm always evolving within. So who am I exactly is always changing. But, you know, my heart is as a teacher. So my background is in education as a professional teacher, which also expands out into the field of meditation, spiritual practice, and just I guess world leadership in a way. And I'm also a mother of a little beautiful girl who's 4 years old called Coral.
Amazing. Now, you and I were introduced to each other through a mutual contact, Carrie Jerislow, who's collaborated with you on your latest book. Can you tell us about the book?
Yes, I totally can. It lights my day up. For me, this is not a book. It's a vision. It's a portal into the cosmos. It's something that I channeled through a year ago, and it's called A New Paradigm of Education for those people who are wondering what is the name of the book. And it's a collaboration of parents, educators, all different types of change makers of the world, all coming together, taking off their hats, taking off their titles, basically holding hands together and just saying, we're here. We're here for the next generations to come. That's it in a nutshell. I can go into much more detail about it, of course, but it's designed to be serving the generations of children that are coming through, and to be changing education. You know, education has completely changed. You know, so it's not about the pandemic, because we know, yes, the pandemic is a bypass or a byproduct of what's happening in terms of the world in evolution. But I feel like this revolution or evolution of education has been coming for a long time. And I'm just really grateful to see so many people around the world all making a stand within their hearts to do what's better for everybody. And I'm talking about things like reducing anxiety in children, saying no to standardized testing, changing, you know, different venues and backgrounds, basically uprooting education to be in a new form. You know, it's not about a piece of paper. Education is not a piece of paper, right?
Exactly.
We all know that.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the things that got me really fired up in the episode I did with Carrie was that we started to talk about education and how, you know, everything on this podcast is about an evolution, right? So, you know, we were talking about education and how, you know, we as humans have evolved. How we're educated needs to evolve as well, so that we're being educated as a holistic human instead of, you know, the 3 R's or whatever they used to call them, you know, and then to strive for a piece of paper at the end, like you say, is really not the real world anymore, is it?
No, it's definitely not. So the education paradigm is not about a model. It's about a debunking of all models, because in the past we've seen almost segregation within education. So there's been a lot of people all wanting to do their best and all coming up with their frameworks. But this is actually what we're talking about, is like oneness consciousness, or unity consciousness, where there's this kind of holistic model where everybody's like taking a step back from the grind of needing it to be a certain way, of it needing to have a certain score, a certain measure, and actually just looking at humans as humans, children as children's, and just deciding, well, what do they actually need? And you know what it is? Most of the time it's like ancient, the results that come through. Like it's like ancient wisdom. You know, they need play, they need nature, they need stillness, you know, they need to be seen, they need to be heard. And all of that can happen at any moment, at any place. And that's not about being inside of a classroom.
And that those formative years are so important in the creation of who we really are, aren't they? Because you know, when you've spent decades in education, and or not quite decades, but a quarter of your life in it, right? You know, you get conditioned in a certain way, not just from what you're being taught, but also from your teachers, your peers, where you are, the environment. It all impacts you and who you become.
Yes. I think everything in life affects you, though. And I think that is also a stigma, if you don't mind me saying, because a lot of the time people are putting a blame onto something in society, whether it's education, whether it's the health system, whether it's work. And what I've noticed since the pandemic is, once all of that happened and all of that was kind of pulled away from us, taken away from us, it sort of brought myself back into a place of just being humble and truthful for who I am and who am I in this world, and what do I stand for? And then sort of then taking a step into, okay, well, you know, there are these systems, but there's actually people behind these systems. So I actually truly believe that people, like us as people, us as humanity, really, really can make a change. Like if we're sitting there waiting around for these systems to change, then, you know, that could be a long time in evolution. But what I've noticed is that people are ready for this, like in terms of, I guess, spiritual evolution, in terms of, I guess, even just people just being ready to make change. It's almost become part of mental health that people are caring for themselves and looking after themselves. And yeah, from that place, that's where the radical change is coming, from the inward and going to the outward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you're right. You know, like through the pandemic, so many people had to teach their kids from home and do homeschooling, which, you know, was a radical change in a very short time, and it's made people look at things very, very differently. And I think, you know, that's also going to impact the kids in a positive way because they've got that connection and they're approaching things from a different angle. And I think that actually has opened the door for us to make greater change.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about that. It hasn't been roses for everybody, as you know. So for some families, having a child at home all day, it probably was causing anxiety within the family. For others, yes, it was a return to connection, a return to that kind of family nest, that that tribal feeling, which is just so beautiful and really admirable. But for others, I'm sure there was kind of this conflict going on. Well, what am I supposed to do? What is the solution? This is not what I want. I don't want to be at home all day with my child. I need to work. I need to do things. And also, so what I found myself through working with the other authors and other educators in the field is that there's just so many different options now that are outside of the box for people who are not wanting to be in a mainstream school, you know. So there's like people that are setting up learning hubs where they're sharing community with each other, so people can still have a moment to have peace for themselves. And one of my biggest messages is always coming back to the self, whether you're an educator, whether you're a parent, whether you're a child. My biggest message is to always work on yourself first, for therefore you to be able to serve everybody else. And so it's super important that people are taking that time out for themselves as well. And yeah, there has been a shift globally in terms of, well, what is work? You know, a lot of people have moved into entrepreneurship and this type of thing. And I think it's really beautiful, because I think it's role modeling to our children that 9 to 5 is not the only way. And that will then be a byproduct of what happens to the children. They're also going to be learning different ways as well. Like, for example, some educators now are pulling their children out of school and having them homeschooled or having them shared schooled or unschooled or things like that. And this allows them just to have grace and space and almost timelessness with what they do with their day, which will then flow on to the next generation when they're grown up, that they'll be like, okay, well, what do we want to do? Which will flow onto their children. And I can already see that that's a massive change globally.
Yeah, it's almost like that generational shift is starting to happen. But, from your experience, Monique, by adding spirituality and things like meditation into education for kids, what impacts have you seen there?
It's an absolute necessity, and anybody that is not practicing that is really missing out on this amazing opportunity to help children, because first and foremost, as educators, our supposed role is to teach children how to learn. That's the old paradigm, right? Yeah. That just sounds so in the box when I say that, and I'm sorry for putting it in those terms. But you know what? Learning can happen brilliantly through meditation. Like, it's proven, it's documented in science. There's different researchers that I've been analyzing. There's like schools that are all opening up mindfulness schools around it. There's parts of the brain. I don't want to go into all the brain science because I'm not a brain doctor, but I have studied all of this information that shows that, the old way of learning was just really working on the scientific side of the brain, sometimes the creativity or emotive side. But there's also the amygdala at the top of the brain, which is actually channeling extra infinite wisdom. And it's also a place where better concentration is happening, less anxiety is happening, joy is happening, bliss is happening, awakening is happening. And you know what? From that place, like, absolutely everything is possible, like absolutely everything. And so I don't know why people would not want to give that to their children. Like, don't you want your children to learn in the best way possible, like using the whole brain? And in our book, actually Carrie Jesselo, who came onto your podcast, I don't know if she mentioned this or not, but she mentioned in her chapter all about the whole brain and the whole child and the importance of the IQ, the IQ, the EQ, and then the energetic quotient. Yeah. And this is definitely the new paradigm where we're stepping into that space where learning can just happen through transmission. It's not needing to be this old clunky kind of rhythm of needing to read and write. It's just this process of it happening and very rapidly,
Yeah, it's just, and like, I'm just seeing you light up just talking about it, like you're on fire. But you also referenced earlier how important play is because, connecting to play and connecting to the childlike, the child within us is really important for creativity and for innovation and growth. And I think that's something that we forget as adults to do. But I think it's really important that that's a really big slice of just the organic growth in a child. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, totally. And I don't think that's the revolution per se, because there's been a lot of empirical research and a lot of other educators in the field that have included this type of work around play in their documentation already. And so we all know that play is creative and it is definitely stimulating the child, and it's definitely necessary. What I would say on that is like free play as opposed to kind of confined play, because, in the schools at the moment, it is rigid with the sort of the small amount of breaks that the children are getting. And then, the notion of work versus play versus, the whole day of being in a place of joy, I've kind of gone on a tangent, but I'll come back to where you were. But like, for example, myself as an educator, I walk into the space in that place of play. I actually call it joy though. Yeah. For me, play and joy are kind of simultaneous. And it is from that space that I am there to serve, and from no other space. Like, who am I to serve from any other space? Because basically, whatever I am transmitting through myself is becoming a place of regulation for the classroom and for the children, and they're going to be able to mirror how I am, and they'll be mirroring off each other as well. So it's absolutely my place to be in that place of joy, to then be able to then allow them to all be in their places as well. And it just really holds us all in this this safety net. Like, play can actually be a safety net as well. Yeah. Like, if that makes sense. So all of that has been researched, but what's the most newest type of research is all this information around mindfulness within classrooms, and that is definitely the new paradigm, the way that everybody's is headed. And just wait until this becomes normalized in schools. Like already they have mental health written down as like a little checkbox.
Yeah.
But imagine it being embodied. Imagine it just being part of everyday practice. Like it's just necessary,
Yeah, I'm seeing more of it coming into workplaces as well as a necessity, particularly since the pandemic and remote working and all of those kind of things. But mindfulness for children and actually getting back to that meditation and that stillness and that peace and that joy and play, that's where we tackle those mental health issues like anxiety and, it could also benefit other physical ailments or mental ailments around things like ADHD and things like that. So actually helping with focus and actually learning. Have you seen that as well?
Yes, 100%. And I'm a perfect example. I'll use myself as a role model rather than just talking about the children. So one of my stories is prior to my awakening, I was teaching, and I was really excited to be a teacher. And of course, I was having this beautiful place of excitement every day going to the class. But you know what? There was just chaos. Like there was chaos in my class. And I was like, what's going on? Why are the children not responding to me? What is going on? And and the more that happened, I was just feeling more and more frustrated inside of myself. And then the children were becoming more frustrated. And there was just this kind of battle of energy going on between us. And there's me like doing my best, going, come on, please let this be a great day. And it just was not gelling. And after I did some of my own work, which wasn't just to be the best teacher in the world, it was just because I wanted to work on myself. Like I had anxiety and I had sort of things that I needed to work on in my life to make myself evolve into the human I am or the spirit I am, or whatever we want to call ourselves. So I noticed a massive change within myself. So I flew to Bali and I taught over there. And basically I just, after being in India and doing a lot of spiritual ashram work and things like that. And I would walk into a classroom and because my energy had shifted into this consciousness of stillness, joy, self-regulation, whatever people want to call it, the children would mirror that back. And so that was definitely how I knew that it was possible. And the children would start to be like noticing things on me and saying, wow, you're just so happy. Or, and my own daughter, for example, like I never actually taught her to meditate at all, but because I meditate so much, she just naturally mirrors me. Like she'll just drop to the floor and just like put her hands in the Om position, close the eyes, even just for a few seconds and say Om. And I can see that she really loves it as well. So there is a lot of research and things like that. I just didn't go into that because the reason I didn't was because our book was written actually kind of debunking research, because actually empirical research has been around for centuries. And what our book is about the inner wisdom of a human. And everybody has that in them. Everybody has a gift to share. And so our book was written from that place. Every single person in the world is an educator. Everybody has that unique gift and that unique story to tell. And so when I was interviewing each of the authors to come into the book, I was like, well, what is your gift that you want to share to the world? Let's think of it from that perspective rather than just regurgitating information that somebody could look up on Google. That's not what we're here to do. That's not our coding, is it?
No.
so that's why I haven't gone into all the detail around that stuff, because it's out there. There's plenty of research, and there's plenty of research that will say one thing, and there's plenty of research that will say another thing. But I know for myself, it has changed me completely, and I have seen it around the people around myself.
And again, it comes back to the whole mission that we're doing as part of this podcast is, if we want to be the change, it starts within us. So when we work on us, that just has a flow-on effect to others. So as, I often say healed humans heal humans. So when we do the healing within us, people start to pick up on that. and the energy that we put out, it's almost like you're glowing and people are attracted to that instead of trying to, fight against you when you're trying to control them. So I just love it when people reach that space of, getting that calm energy and other people just want to be around you, like they just gravitate towards you. I think it's just such a beautiful thing. And obviously it's happening for you with when kids gather around you as well. It's like a beacon.
Yes, totally.
Now, you were talking in the book about on-the-spot language?
On-the-spot language.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Okay, so that was Anesh's chapter. So that's his inner wisdom. So he was sharing about just changing the way that ESL learners have been learning in the past and learning through grammar and learning through kind of almost like dictatorship in a way, like dictating words back. And I know myself because I have also been an ESL teacher in China and also in Bali. So I've also been in the same field as him, that a lot of that stuff is just not relevant. So it's just reading a book and just memorizing something like a parrot. And so his program is really amazing because it's getting students out on the field into the real world. And then he's teaching them the real world language, like as in, like if he was Australian, he'd be teaching them, g'day, mate, how's it going?
Yeah.
Like using the proper accent, using the way that we actually speak, the way that's actually applicable as opposed to it being in a book. And then he's actually got people out. He's got his students out on the street, and from there he's actually getting them to speak directly with people face to face and making errors, making mistakes all on the spot. So it's like on the spot language, on the spot, which is really brilliant because not only does it help them kind of build their confidence, it's making it applicable and everything. And he also has a program that's linked to gratitude around that as well, because it could be quite daunting for somebody who's just arrived. His program is in Canada. For somebody who's just arrived into Canada to then be like speaking for the first time and maybe there's like, they feel nervous or they feel anxious or they feel whatever, but he's actually directly there with them, like supporting them and guiding them to then build confidence. So he's really changing the face of the ESL world in terms of adult education and learning. In his style is moving away from books and moving into just the real world. And that's exactly what you do when you travel, when you go and you travel and you order like a taco from somewhere, you go and you order it. You don't just like read the book and just, do it like a parrot. So he's bringing all of that into learning hubs around Canada.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And no doubt that would have a greater impact on the retention of information as well by being immersed into that real world situation instead of, like a classroom or something like that. Totally. I know for me it would make a bigger imprint on me than being in a rigid sort of environment. I think that's amazing. I love it. Absolutely love it. Now, Monique, one thing I love to ask guests on the show is, what does being ethical mean to you?
I was actually considering that myself when I was coming on this podcast. And I was thinking, what, if the title of this podcast was ethical education, that would almost have a stigma to me, because it would feel like the old paradigm, like we must follow the rules and we must follow the ethics and the rule books and we must be rigid. Like it just had this kind of feeling. I'm like, well, what would it be then? And so when I researched it further, I was feeling into the feeling of like oneness and wholeness for the planet. So to be ethical is not about a title, a position, a label, a dogma, and anything, any kind of box. It's like this complete feeling of openness and expansiveness, and being able to understand and to meet people from where they're at, but also to be able to see them the same as you. So their unique gift, but also being able to see them as one with you is what I would classify as ethical.
I love that. Absolutely love it. There's no wrong answer to that question. I absolutely love it. That was amazing. Thank you. Now, if people are listening to this and they're parents and they want to try something different with their kids in terms of learning, what kind of tips could you give them to get started?
Sure. It depends on what the parents are looking to do. So there's a range of different things. So if they're wanting to keep their children just in mainstream schools, my first suggestion would be working on themselves as parents through mindfulness practices. And there's so many different places you can go. Mindfulnessschools.com is one resource that they could go to that has programs for children and for adults. I would also suggest the children to also be doing small little snippets of mindfulness every day, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. Also allowing the releasing the control. So that also comes back when you're practicing mindfulness. A lot of the control mechanisms within yourself are naturally released, so you don't need to do anything but to try and do it. But it would actually help them to allow more freedom for children to make choices for themselves, to listen to their children more, and to allow them to just have that space of the child leading them as opposed to them leading the child. There's also different pathways that people can take. So there's different like learning hubs, there's online learning, there's homeschooling, there's unschooling, there's a whole lot of different ways you can go about that. Our group, A New Paradigm of Education, is a group of educators and parents and mentors all together, holding hands from all different fields. And so if they had any questions or they wanted to know some further steps, we could obviously support them. But definitely just being able to listen to your child is such a gift. Actually taking time, like really taking time, not just like while you're doing the dishes or, just sitting there, taking time to see and to hear them and listen to what their messages are. Maybe they're saying they don't want to go to school. Okay, well, what do you want to do then? Like, and just kind of, if possible, to take yourself out of the picture and just to listen from a blank space with non-judgment. See what comes through. That might be difficult.
Yeah.
That could be really difficult, right?
Yeah.
But try it within. And it's really going to depend on where the parent is at in their space of evolution and what they're wanting to change, and also what messages the child is bringing through and how receptive both are to those messages.
Those are some awesome tips, and no doubt there'll be a whole bunch of resources available through your book as well, and your online resources. So if people do want to get in touch with you, Monique, and find out more and also get the book, where can they go?
Sure. So our book is called A New Paradigm of Education. And you're right, it does have a whole lot of different resources in there written by 8 different educators and authors from around the world. And they can go to amazon.com for the book. And our website is anewparadigmofeducation.com. And so is our Facebook group as well, A New Paradigm of Education. Yes,
and I'm going to jump in that group because I think it looks amazing with all the contributors to the book. So some really good resources in there. Now, I've got the last big question for you, Monique. What's the change you'd like to see in the world, and how can we bring it to life?
Global awakening, if I could say it simply. If you want me to go into detail.
Ooh, that's huge.
It's my soul mission. I'm here for that. And there's nothing that's less than that. And I think it's one of those things, once you take a step through the door of wanting to, as I said, I had anxiety, wanting to make a change in my life, to then moving into a place of awakening, to then moving to a place of full-blown awakening, to then being able to serve humanity with that, including our children. And I just see that really is going to change. It's going to evolve the whole planet on all levels, if I put it simply.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, could you imagine a world like that? Could you imagine it right now?
It's happening. It's happening. The more people that are focusing on that, it's here.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah. And again, the mission here is for us to spread that collective change bit by bit, day by day. And you and I are both there, and we're doing it right now. So thank you so much for being a part of the Ethical Evolution. I've loved every single minute.
Oh, thank you so much as well.
Thanks for listening to the Ethical Evolution podcast. If you're ready to be the change and would love to work with me on finding your voice through spiritual coaching or creating your own podcast with impact, visit ethicalchangeagency.com.
Are you passionate about saving the planet for future generations? Do you want to learn how to do it? If yes, then you need to tune in to the Nature Backed podcast. It's a talk show covering the changing world around us, from renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, circular economy, to ESG and social innovation. Don't miss this opportunity to discover how you can join the movement and make a difference. Subscribe to the Nature Backed podcast today on your favorite platform and get ready to be amazed.
Hey, what's happening out there, everybody? This is Lawrence Ross, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my podcast, The Lawrence Ross Show.
Egomaniac.
It's a 2-hour weekly exploration into my mind. I also do sketches, celebrity impersonations.
You're out of order!
And I also do song parodies. Not too shabby for a blind guy.
Not only are you visually impaired, but you are geographically impaired.
New episodes are released every Friday. Check it out on your favorite podcasting platform or listen to it here on Society 13 on Electrocast.